I'm Lisa.
And I'm Ray.
And you're listening to
This Midlife Hustle.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about the business of owning a salon.
Right. We owned a salon for over 6 years. And we're going to talk about a little bit about that business, how we formed it, how things went, and one fatal flaw that kept us from being enormously profitable.
Yeah.
Really would have been a profitable salon.
Yep.
For people who have been following along with us, we are going to get back to the Amazon FBA stuff that we've been talking about. We've been distracted mainly because we've been actually working on closing the salon. We'll explain that and why and how that all went down.
Yep.
In the middle of all that, we were on travel. I got sick. I got a second bout of shingles, and I really am going to have to struggle getting through this episode because I can't, my mouth still hurts I got shingles in my mouth, basically. So my mouth still hurts a bit. I'm still recovering from that. And Lisa was actually still recovering from surgery. We started this podcast when she had surgery. So you're still recovering from that.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's real life. We're kind of giving people a play-by-play in real time of how these things go. This isn't the DIY episode where something takes, 6 months in real life, but you see it on 1 hour in a show.
Yeah.
We're just giving you play-by-play as week goes on. We're kind of coming here talking about things as they go and making sure that we give updates on our process and trying to add value by sharing lessons learned about our pursuits in business, either past and future. Right? So let's start talking about the forming of the salon. Do you want to get started on that? Like the background of how that all came to fruition?
Yeah. So what happened was the salon that I worked at, I was renting a booth and they were closing. They announced that they were closing. Within the next, I believe it was like 3 to 5 months they gave us. It wasn't even like a substantial amount of time. And that went into me trying to look for another salon to rent out of. And then you came up with the idea of, since renting a booth is almost as much as leasing a space, why don't we look into that? At first, I didn't want to.
Oh, now that you're telling the story, I think that original owner that you were renting from, she wanted to sell you the business as well.
Yeah.
And we looked at her business model and we thought about it. We were going to take over the lease.
She didn't want to change anything. Nothing at all. She didn't want
to. Well, that was irrelevant. We could have came in there and changed things, but their lease terms were actually horrible. So I don't know how she was even in business.
Horrible. Yeah.
And then, like you said, we started looking for leases. So you can pick up the story from there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we started looking for leases in the demographic area that my clients were, from. And we stumbled upon pretty much like a hole in the wall that we saw potential. And then, we started the process of looking into it, called the realtor that was on the door.
So we can tell this story a little bit in fast forward. It was almost a full year of planning between negotiating for the lease. We had a lawyer in there that I had to fire because he wasn't doing a good job. He's actually, let me just leave it at that. He wasn't doing a good job at all. He wasn't representing my interests very well. So I had to fire that lawyer. He almost lost us the deal. Then we finally got leasing terms that we agreed upon and agreed upon how we were going to do the build out because we needed to gut the place and do a new build out.
It was a salon, but it was a very dark, they had carpet on the wall.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Very strange.
Very strange.
It wouldn't have fit your demographic at all.
No.
We wanted an upscale, clean, bright, modern salon.
Yeah.
So we worked with a salon designer. We worked with an architect.
Yeah.
Actually, ultimately we worked with 2 different salon designers. One who was the equipment rep and a salon designer, and somebody who we paid to actually do the layout and give us a lot of ideas.
Yep.
So we had a really good concept. We looked at the demographics, had a full business plan we created. We used Live Plan for the business plan.
Yep.
And we knew we had strong demographics in the area, meaning there was a lot of affluent women who cared about the quality services. Part of our business plan was that we were going to be looking for clients who were seeking quality, not price. If you want price, go to Hair Cuttery or one of those places. If you want some of the best quality you can get at an affordable price, come to us.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean cheap. That means you're going to pay for skill.
You're going to pay for skills. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was our demographics. And we debated a little, I remember, between a 4 to 8 chair salon.
That was more than just a debate, but yeah.
Yeah. But the problem was like the space itself it was oriented a certain way.
Mhm.
Like as I went to the salon designers, like they were like, well, if we try to give you a 6-chair salon, you're just going to have like a huge retail area or a lot of office space in the back, or like there wasn't really, it needed to be an 8-chair salon. It was perfect for an 8-chair salon. And we looked at the demographics and we were like, if we can just have, even if we had 6 of those chairs working,
Yeah.
we should be making like $300,000 a year.
Yeah.
If we have all 8 chairs working, we should be making something more like $400,000 a year.
Yeah.
So everything looked good on paper. We went through all the process of doing a full build out, working with contractors, all the problems that come with contractors. We worked with, we did a lot ourselves. I installed the flooring.
I was going to say, they just put walls up, plumbing,
painted.
They
did the rough plumbing.
Yeah.
I put up all the salon fixtures.
We did everything else.
Yeah. I created the
chairs,
the color bar. I mounted the wall unit and I mounted all the salon furniture.
Yeah.
I did all the flooring.
Yeah.
Which is a pain. Well, with help from daughters and friends.
Yeah.
So we did that whole build out ourselves. Learned a lot about like licensing of music in public spaces. So we ended up having a service for that. We tried to do everything right as much as we can.
Yeah.
And I thought we had a great
It was
kickoff.
a beautiful salon.
Yeah. Everybody who came through the salon loved the concept. The only thing that was debatable is the name. I really like the name over the years. I like the brand. It was called Tough Love Salon, and the logo was a heart in the shape of hair
and
with a fist, right? That was off-putting to some people, and other people loved it. So
we had husbands who called and made appointments for their wives because they needed someone that told them the truth and, actually made them understand what goes with their facial features, what color goes with their skin tone, things like that. So, but I'll never forget when we ordered the salon name and like actually the sign and it was up. We both drove back and forth and you looked at me and said, "What did we do?"
Right.
Because the demographic where we were was pretty upscale, the little community that we were. And you got scared there for a moment. And I looked at you and I go, well, it's too late.
Well, and once people get it, so we spend a lot of money on marketing. Once people have been to the salon and get it and word of mouth starts spreading, they'll know that it's more than just what's on the name. Anyways, and that name fits you perfectly. Yeah. I'm going to give you a little, we just closed the salon last week. Actually, beginning of this week, the 18th, finally closed everything. When people asked you, new clients came in and said, Tough Love Salon, what does that name mean? How did you come up with it? Tell our listeners tell them the spiel.
I did have a little bit of help with clients because I was really stuck on the name. But a lot of my clients, the feedback I was getting is, you are the toughest, like my reviews, you are the toughest thing out there. You're straightforward. You don't sugarcoat anything. You tell it like it is. And if the client doesn't like what you're saying, you would literally lose money because that's not a client for you. Because in our profession, we know what we're doing. We go to schooling. We train year in, year out. It's not one of these things where you get a license.
The good people do.
Yes, the good people do. If you have to stay up. It's like technology. It changes. So this industry, everything changes. There's new techniques, new color lines, new everything every year. So yeah, I would lose money and just tell it like it is.
So we developed this concept based on that was like professional honesty.
Professional honesty.
You're giving a professional opinion.
Yeah.
And you had a knack to it. I mean, it may sound a little abrasive and scary, but you weren't abrasive about it. You were strong-willed, and if you're opinionated, you would be not afraid to defend that opinion.
Right.
But you weren't rude about it.
No.
You would just tell them, you'd educate clients about why. Well, this is why that won't work for you. Yeah. And if clients were adamant about like, well, I want this, I like this look, you would be like, then this isn't the salon for you because I'm not having you walk out of here and look like that and have people think that I did that to you.
Right. Because they're ultimately my walking billboard.
Right.
I had a lot of clients who got stopped at a grocery store or a store and was like, I love your hair. Where did you get it done? That's how I got a lot of referrals. They are my walking billboard.
Right.
So if I was adamant, I think there was only a handful of times where I was like, the client would not leave my chair. And it was like maybe 3-4 times that I was like, look I'm not going to work on you. So you can sit there all you want, as long as you want, but I'm not doing this. And and they would look at my other stylist and I'd be like, you're not touching her. I'm sorry.
And you fired a handful of clients as well, just for being disrespectful, rude, or, not being a good fit with the salon. And
majority of the time they valued my opinion, listened. They were scared, absolutely 100% scared. But I'm a very visual person. They trusted, and a lot of clients left in tears, the new ones. The ones that followed me
left in tears of happiness. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah, left in tears of happiness. Yeah.
And then learn to trust you and learn trust the process and appreciate your opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they would go. Some people would even go to other salons and then come back and be like, "Yeah, I don't get that anywhere else." And you're very skilled in some certain techniques that other people don't even just have the skills to do. But B, there's just all these yes people. They think that making a client happy is saying yes to anything they bring to you.
Right.
And if the client doesn't know the industry and you just do whatever they say, it's like if you went to a doctor and told him the procedure to do.
Right.
Like the doctor's going to do the procedure he needs to do for the condition you have.
Right.
You can bring a suggestion to him, and maybe the doctor's not a complete analogy, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like you respect a professional's opinion about what would be best for you.
Yeah.
As well. And then you meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
So anyways, we had a very successful salon. You grew the business, got a good name in the community. Yeah. We did have that one fatal flaw that I'd like to talk about. But right now, if you're enjoying this episode, I would like to encourage you to subscribe, like, and share. You're listening this far. You probably want to hear the rest of the story. You might have some people who would like listening to us as well. Please help us. It'll help the channel. It'll help us grow. So let's talk about the next evolution of the business, the next phase. We were a couple years in. We were doing all right, but we always had trouble finding employees that shared your qualities. We couldn't find other people who were willing to come in.
I'm going to correct you there. We weren't doing all right. I was doing amazing and knocking it out of the park.
Right.
It was finding stylists that had the same passion.
And let's talk, the business is closed now. Let's talk some numbers for people who are interested in getting into the salon industry. You alone, in most typical years, brought in somewhere around $140,000 to $160,000 through that salon.
Me alone.
You alone, even through the bad years, even through startup, even through COVID.
Yep.
You varied from like maybe 120 some years, I think, maybe during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the beginning and during that initial COVID bump, it like took a little bit of a dip, like maybe down to 120, 130. Mm-hmm. But most years you were at about 140 to 160 in that range over 6 years, roughly 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you were knocking it out of the park
each year.
And in the beginning of that, most of the offsets of why we weren't profitable is because you were trying to help some employees get staffed up. And we figured if we can convert them into good employees, then they would be worth it. It was just a never ending nightmare of one problem after another.
Yeah. Just
people we took a chance on, people who we thought would be a good gamble, people fresh out of school, coming and going.
We had three that I was really hoping that would really work out, and because I saw it, but there's a difference between myself and the name Tough Love Salon and giving advice to clients and straight talk and all that stuff. But I still stayed humbled. Some of these stylists that we had, an attitude changed once they started implementing, once I started telling them and telling them to implement, the truth. Just don't take someone because you need money. It doesn't work at the end. They're going to come back. They're going to redo. They're not going to be happy. The hair is not going to be healthy. But some of them it just broke me because
they never quite got it. They would either be rude or they wouldn't be. I guess if you don't have the skills to give that professional advice, then your advice doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
So I think that's what to kind of spill the beans on that one fatal flaw. It's a combination of things, but really what it was is we never were able to get employees that were at your skill level. Even the ones who showed potential never kind of leveled up.
It was always a rush. Yeah. It was always cutting corners. It was always, I come in 6:30 in the morning sometimes, leave at 10 o'clock at night, sometimes midnight. Remember that one day?
People who didn't want to work.
Nurses, doctors that I had that I made my schedule flexible. These girls are like coming in at 10, coming in, at 11, leaving by 3.
It was a job. It wasn't a career.
It wasn't a career. And the thing is you get mad respect and loyal clients for life if you help them out, especially when they're having like, I got kids, they don't go to sleep until 8. That's the only time. All right, 8:30. You can come
Or
in 8:30.
somebody messed up their hair. They used a product that burnt their hair, or
Right. Yeah. It was
pool
really
water turned their hair green.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really sad. It was really, really sad.
Yeah. So there's a big missed opportunity there, because if we could have, I guess let's talk about employees a little bit more. The problem was we couldn't find experienced stylists because the salon industry is full of people who, I don't know how it got to be this way. I know some states actually make it illegal. There are booth renters and there are commission.
Yeah.
A common commission model is 50-50 or 60-40 in favor of the stylist. Like, we're not partners. You're not the one who put in $220,000 to build this place. You don't pay the bills every month, the electricity, buy all the products. How the hell am I going to pay you 50-50 commission? No, I have to account for all the costs it takes me to run this salon. And then I have to make some profit because I'm in this for a business. This isn't a hobby, right? So if I have to hire you and pay you 50-50 or 60-40 because you're some diva, hairstylist who thinks you earn the right to get paid that much, fine. Then you kick in your 50% of the cost it took to build this business. Then we're partners. Then I can give you 50-50.
Right.
So commission, I just don't like, and we wouldn't hire people under commission. Booth rental, to do booth rental properly and legally by the federal government's rules, they have to be an fully independent contractor.
And is that a 1090? I think it is.
1099. Yeah. So, and what that means is they have to, strictly speaking, you can't set their hours. You can't tell them what to do, what product to use. You
can't even tell them to clean.
I mean, you can have salon rules that they have to clean up after themselves and such, but you can't make them do things for the salon.
Yeah.
They have to have their own set of keys so that they can make their own schedule. And they're, strictly speaking, they're supposed to bill their own clients as well. So you can't have your own payment processing system, right? If you don't do that, then if the government ever audits you, they can make you pay back taxes. They can say, well, that person didn't behave like a 1099 independent contractor. They behaved, and you manage them more like an employee. Therefore, they back tax you and penalize you after the fact. So I wasn't comfortable with that. So I came up with my own system of commission. And stylists aren't mathematicians or, accountants. I thought it was very fair. Basically, what I did at the root of it is I said, well, I would take the time to calculate all the goods and services and how much it would cost for us to provide services, our overhead. And then every service had that amount tagged to it. We would subtract that from the service and then pay you commission on that. And if you didn't make commission based on that number, we would back that up with a wage.
Yeah.
And if you were with us longer, it wasn't minimum wage. It was progressively more.
That's a lot better than a lot of salons out there.
Yeah.
And, but that was also an issue because sometimes they would come in and just sit down on their phones. And the thing is, they took huge advantage of me because I was extremely busy and they knew that I had back to back clients that I couldn't sit there and be like, get off your phone. The few times I did, they were embarrassed and then they ended up leaving work early because I called them out in front of clients. But yeah.
Yeah. And then by the end of the day, you're exhausted.
I'm exhausted.
So you don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, so employees was our number one problem.
Yeah.
I think.
There was a little, right before COVID, we had 5 girls plus me.
And things were rolling.
Things were rolling. And I'm like, okay, this is great. This is, there's no nonsense. And then all of a sudden some drama happened and I'm nipping it in the butt and they don't like that I'm nipping it in the butt. And then next thing you know, we fire one. We fire another, then we're down to 3.
And then COVID hit. So let's talk about COVID. I don't think anybody could have planned for COVID, but we did have enough money in the bank. We planned for contingencies. We had enough money to avoid failure.
Yeah.
At least enough money to help get us through the point where PPP loans and such helped. So we got through COVID, but there's another, I guess I didn't add this other complication. Right before, like literally on the cusp of COVID, my mother had passed. Our kids were all out of the house.
Yep.
And we're sitting around in Maryland, like, why are we even in this big house anymore?
Yeah. It was really
Do we want to move? And then we said, yeah. And we started thinking like, well, why do we want to live in Maryland then? Like, let's move to a state. Taxes are
crazy.
Yeah, taxes were crazy. Let's move to a state that we want, that doesn't have state income tax and that we would enjoy. So we considered like Texas and Florida. We ended up
Delaware.
Yeah, but no, we didn't want to stay in the cold. So it was like Texas and Florida is really what we came around to, and we ended up settling on Central Florida because, Disney's here. There's a lot of entertainment, and it's a lot of place where a lot of people retire. So there will be a transition to retirement someday as well. And we thought it would make sense because we were still looking for more employees, and that was going well. You would have been able to come in and like slam a schedule once a week out of a month, and
Sunday to Sunday.
Yeah, and you would have been fine.
Yeah.
And we had somebody at the time who we trusted to be like an assistant manager. Our daughter, Alexa, was still in Maryland at the time. So it made sense. Like this all made sense on paper.
And all our clients knew.
Yeah, all our clients knew.
Mine did.
So we had an assistant manager we trusted. We had Alexa there who we trusted. And you were going to come in once a month. It would have been fine.
Yeah.
Then COVID hit. Like literally when we were closing on when we were moving.
Yeah, we
closed on our house.
On the March 13th.
Do you remember the date?
I remember the date because it was Friday the 13th, and the day before our realtor called us and told us, hey, did you guys know, because there was 2 teachers that were buying our house, and she didn't know what the outcome was going to be because they had, quote, lost their job temporarily because of this virus that was going around to clean the schools.
Yeah.
And she didn't know if they were going to go back out of the deal.
And I was nervous about meeting them in person because this news had just come out.
Yeah.
And I was sniffling and coughing. I was sick. Yeah. I had a fever and I was sniffling and coughing. I didn't know. I think it was just a flu, but I didn't know what it was. So we didn't even know if it was going to close. But it did. The deal closed, and we didn't have a house. We were homeless. And we had a hotel set up in Florida in advance, a long-term stay I negotiated, which is a trick I learned when I was a government contractor. So I negotiated a long-term stay to be our home base while we searched for a home in Florida. Packed up everything in pods. So our whole life was in pods and storage. And we drove to Florida. And the hotel was actually in COVID protocol when we got to Florida.
Were they?
They had just started.
They had just started?
Yeah.
But yet Maryland, our assistant manager was calling us, freaking out, saying they're going to close us. But I was like, nah. That was like a whole week of phone calls like that. Then the end of the month.
It was supposed to be 2 weeks. It was just a 2-week closure.
Yeah. And then next thing you know, it was like the first week of April.
Yeah.
And everything shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was devastating. And I guess let's not make this all about COVID, but let's just say like there were a lot of challenges through that, but we made it through.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge was that you basically had to go into a mode where as soon as they opened things up, you had to be in Maryland to micromanage things.
I did, because my clientele was the ones that was paying the bills, paying the girls' salaries. So I had to be the primary person, because when we went back, we only had to have a certain amount of people in the salon, including ourselves, per square foot.
Yeah.
And we were doing the math between the 3
so
girls
you couldn't
plus
just
me.
come in Sunday to Sunday, morning to evening.
We
and
couldn't
crank
do it
out.
and have the girls there plus their clients. We had to like really micromanage the schedule.
Yeah.
And then the girls got upset because my clientele had to come first. We apologized to them, but it had to come first because they pay the bills. Without them, the girls wouldn't even have jobs. So it was hard. Yeah.
And that put you into I guess I'll say, like, until the salon closed, that put you into, for one reason or another, in part, again, employee problems. You flew between Maryland and Florida every single week. Every single week. Florida, Maryland, Florida, Maryland, Florida, Maryland.
June 21st, 2020 started my first flight of my first week.
Yeah.
Going back and forth.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, June 19th, when the governor lifted the restrictions, my phone was blowing up.
Yeah.
And in that week, I made crazy, crazy money because all my clients were dying. Now, mind you, we were locked in a house. I don't understand why women had to have their hair done. I learned after the fact why. But yeah, it was crazy to micromanage all of that stuff.
Yeah. So you went into this mode of traveling back and forth, and we got through it. The next phase of your life, what started happening is we started dealing with some, I wouldn't call them so far, knock on wood, major health events, but it's just, when you and I are separated so far and something happens, like I needed to go to the emergency room a couple times, and you basically, or one time I flew to Maryland And
Yeah.
one time you flew to Florida.
Yeah.
And luckily, they didn't end up being anything major.
Yeah.
But it's scary when your spouse is away from you and needs to go to a hospital and you're not there for them.
Yeah.
So we had a couple incidents like that. And then we had an incident that I know you don't want to talk about all the details on the podcast, but you had an incident that was causing like a problem with your blood chemistry.
Yeah.
And you needed a surgery.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately what led to us kind of doubling down our efforts to close the salon.
Yeah.
So let's transition a little bit about talking about closing the salon now. Because of this travel on you, got to be quite a bit. And we had, minor health issues here and there.
It was taxing.
Yeah. We started working with one broker. Over a year, she couldn't bring a sale in. This was right after COVID.
Yeah.
Her main problem was right after COVID, there were investors coming in who were basically looking to buy stuff dirt cheap. And we weren't ready to sell anything dirt cheap at the time. There was no reason to, really. Like we put in over $220,000 into the build out alone.
Yeah.
You were making good money, even with the travel.
Yeah.
I say that on paper, technically, you were like either break even or losing money most of your, by the time you did all the profit and loss.
Yeah.
Right. You were bringing in good money, but by the time you consider
the flights,
all the expenses,
the hotel, the food. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, because of all that travel, you weren't actually making any money. You would have if you were still in Maryland. So we had that going on. Then we switched to another broker who had previously kind of reached out to us, but she didn't have any salon sales. And she, some time had transpired. She knew the broker we were working with, and she was like, she wanted to check with her, and she said, "Yeah, I'll take this on." About a year went by actually, and she also had trouble. We were right about at the year mark where she had trouble, and she also had some issues going on in her family life that made it challenging for her to give too much attention. But she doubled down her efforts when I called her and said, "Hey, Lisa's having the surgery. I'm basically trying to figure out what's going to be my move now. Am I going to try to kind of fight the lease legally or something?" I really didn't want to do that. The people who we leased from, our landlord, they were stern business people, but good people. I also didn't want to trash my name because we had or your name. I mean, we had a personal guarantee against our personal assets. Yep. And I didn't want to trash our name or need to go through bankruptcy or something like that.
And at this point, we only have a year and a half left.
Yeah. So it was like, we can, if we really had to, we can tough it out.
And at this point, I started telling my clients at the year 2 mark that we had left that it's 2 years left and I don't think I'm going to come back. Once the lease is done, it's done.
Yeah.
At first I was like, I don't know, it depends. But then I was like, once my surgery was in the future, this is how, it was just like, I don't think so.
Yeah. So she started doubling down her efforts on, reaching out to previous people who had spoken. We dropped the price, not like she didn't relist it, but when she was reaching out to people, she dropped the price to tell them, hey, they're really looking to move things along now. Yeah. You're not going to find a deal like this again.
With the quality equipment that we have.
Yeah. We had,
it was
like
pristine.
I said, yeah, very, very nice equipment. Yeah. The only, I would say, problem there to solve was the flooring was starting to get a little wonky. Yeah. But still, we for
everything else was
for what we sold it for versus how much you'd have to put into especially in today's economy post COVID with all material costs now. Yeah, like no way you that salon would cost you.
I just hope the new person understands.
I think she did. I think she genuinely
the diamond that she has.
Yeah, so I think she really appreciated it. So that is what, like, ultimately what happened is we were sitting here. You had told your clients I needed the surgery right away. That's a little bit of a story in of itself. Like the surgeon you wanted to use was about to go to a different position and he wasn't going to be doing that service or that type of surgery anymore.
My surgery was scheduled for April. Got a phone call that he was no longer doing it after March. And I freaked out because of this situation. My doctor was adamant that I used him. He's amazing. It's robotic. I mean, it was just, I needed to use him. So I went from, this was like the second week of January. I thought they were just calling me to schedule pre-op, yada, yada for April. And she tells me this. And then she heard the panic in my voice. I asked her a few personal questions. She said, let me get back to you. And next thing you know, she calls me and she goes, how's next Friday? And I was like, next Friday to see him? Because I wanted to see him before he left to see what doctor is like you to do the same surgery. And she goes, no, for surgery. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Book it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, because that was your window to get it done by one of the best surgeons in the area who specialized in this thing.
Yep.
So that's when I reached out to the broker and said, yeah, we really need to move things along. Let's drop the price and see who's interested.
Yep.
And we did. We got a bunch of bites, like I think 4 interested
In total,
buyers.
yeah. In my recovery time, that was like shocking.
Yeah.
I literally was in shock that I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. In my mind, to the day we signed, I was still thinking, I'm just working. I put in my mind, I'm just working. I have a year and a half left.
That was
I'm
stressful.
Just working.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Basically, this one person who finally came through is not the person of all the people that, like, one person actually cold called you and you gave them a bunch of information.
Yeah, because I was still answering business calls.
Yeah.
So I did not expect that. It was like 3 times.
But she asked us a lot of questions. She didn't end up being the buyer ultimately.
No.
And the buyer who came through had a previous deal who fell through. She fell in love with the salon when she came and visited. She was actually going to buy a much worse salon for more money. So when she found our salon at the price we were offering it and all the terms, my one condition though was that whoever took the salon, I wasn't interested in the money necessarily. Like, I was just getting what we can get. What we really needed was somebody who was going to be able to take the lease away from us, because I didn't want the personal guarantee anymore.
Yeah.
Wanted to be able to step away completely.
Yep.
And when she first came to the landlord, she wasn't able to do that. But then she brought in a co-signer and he was able to help her get qualified. And so that all ended up working out.
Yeah.
The stress of it all was really like the process of working through it. I guess she was going through a divorce again. Another one of these cases we just talked in another podcast episode, right? I, again, feel compassion for people going through that type of thing. But because of that, late in the game, she needed us to make a change. That change had some ripple effects, actually ended up costing me money because I needed to clear some additional things with the attorney. Mm-hmm. So my attorney's bill went up. And I think that one thing added a whole bunch of delay and problems where, like, right to the end, like, I even had to put the DocuSign together because I was like, look, I'm not moving things and getting all packed up and ready to go until everyone has signed these documents. So you can't come in on Monday the 18th and sign everything then. And like, I need time to, schedule bill, like utilities to be shut off or at least transferred, pack up things in boxes. And I'm not doing all that until I know we're getting everything's all signed. Yeah. And then still the deal's not done until you get the final funds, the final deposit.
Yep.
So you go on a little risk like that, but they had put in a substantial deposit that they would be at risk of losing. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, they did end up signing anything kind of much later in the game than I would have wanted to see. And so we looked good for going into the weekend. And then Monday, we just had to wait for the final check to clear.
Yep.
And they did send in the wire funds. Mm-hmm. And then on Tuesday, we got confirmation that the wire funds cleared. So the business was concluded and settled and everything was good.
Yeah.
Very stressful.
It was stressful for you, not me. I literally busted my butt that week from 6:30 in the morning.
It was not stressful for you only because you weren't paying attention to these details.
No.
I'm the business manager of our salon. So it's not that it wasn't stressful for you. It's you had been distracted by all the other things you needed to be doing.
Because I worked 14, 15-hour days from Sunday when we landed the 10th until the 16th when we started packing stuff up.
And again, let's talk some numbers for people who are listening to the podcast this far in, because, the salon is closed now, just to give some people who are interested in this type of thing some hope. On a typical week in a good area where you're a skilled stylist, so you have to be able to have the skills to bring to the table.
Yep.
But you would bring in typically $6,000 a week.
Yeah, about $6,000. Some holiday weeks would be about $9,000 a week, and that's just me.
Yep, that's just you.
That's just
and
me.
So other stylists, if we brought in other stylists, they should have been able to, even if they made half that we would have been great.
I mean, I was even so vulnerable as I showed some of these girls, even though I was not getting a paycheck, I showed them what they could be making if they hustled like me.
Yeah.
And they just didn't.
They just wanted a job.
They just wanted a job.
Yeah.
And we treated them good. Yep. Nobody can take that away from us.
Gifts.
We treated them like gold. Every milestone they got gift cards, team dinners, breakfast every morning. Manager had a credit card. I would send her to breakfast, lunch sometimes, dinner. I mean, that no one will ever take away from us. We treated them like gold. When they warranted it, they got it. You know? So yeah.
Yeah. So, but to focus on numbers, $6,000 on a decent week and a normal week.
Yeah.
$9,000 on a good week.
Yeah.
And right around there, you're at your capacity, right?
Yeah.
You're, and again, those numbers will scale. Like if you're in DC, cost of living is even higher. If you're in like San Diego, California,
but
San
rent will be
Francisco,
higher.
rent will be higher. Right. Everything scales up. So those numbers scale to the economy basically. But in, Maryland's economy, kind of south of Baltimore, so not even in the Baltimore area.
Yeah.
Like kind of in between, closer to the Annapolis market is where you were there.
Yep.
And that was good money. Like that was really good money there. Like that would have paid a mortgage if we were there.
Yeah. We have a lot of sad clients. Yeah. It broke my heart. I couldn't tell them in person.
Yeah.
It broke me. It killed me, especially the ones that followed me since 2011.
Because I was sitting here as the business advisor and talking to the broker, playing the game of, she has literally seen deals go belly up the day of signing. Yeah. Funds not produced. Like, so everything's signed and then you get to the final leg of the journey and everybody's ready to hand the keys over and funds didn't clear.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here telling you, like, I don't know what else to do. To some degree, we have to go at risk at that part of the thing. Yeah. But what we would have had to done if that happened to us is we would have had to scramble last minute to reopen and get everything ready to go again.
And I'm a terrible liar, guys. I'm a terrible liar. And some of my clients literally smelled it on me. I don't know how. They were literally asking me like, so when are you moving? So you staying in Florida for 6 weeks recovering. Don't you want to stay there now? Like, why are you here? It like scared me because I'm a terrible liar. So it was just, I was treading and excuses and oh my God, it was the hardest week for me. It was the hardest week for me because I knew I wasn't going to see them. And again, some of them have been with us since 2011.
Yeah, but we had to do it that way because can you imagine what would have happened? You never know. Every client's a little different, but the minute people hear you're moving, they're moving on as well. And your book could have got like diminished to like a third of the clients remaining or something. Yeah. If we needed to stay open, that would have been a financial loss beyond measure. I don't think we would have come back from that.
Yeah. I have clients texting me now or calling still or emailing asking for their formulas. And if they mess up, beware that they'll be flying to Florida.
Right.
So, I mean, my clients I'm trying to help them. But I can see them flying to Florida.
Yep. Yeah, you'll be reestablished here
soon.
I think you deserve a good reset, time off, like just not only because of your surgery.
Yeah. Just to think about what we want to do next. Cause I don't know. I don't know if I want to rent and I want to stay in hair. I thought about doing something else. I just don't know if I want to open up a business. Just certain things in our life at this point kind of scare me a little bit health-wise.
Yeah, it would have to be, it would have to be just right.
It would just have to be a just right kind of situation. But I am going to stay in hair. I am looking for a place, but I am decompressing right now.
It is also a business we know really well now. So there's that as well. Like,
and I know I want something small, not an 8-chair one.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd be happy with 2 because my daughter Alexa is a hairstylist. So, and she knows me and I know her and we are like thick as thieves and she's just like me. So I would love to just have 2 and just have me and her bring in the money.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to save that for your next chapter when you figure that out. But right now you're kind of resetting and decompressing. It's a business we know a lot about though. So I would say the one thing I want to leave folks with, I'm not going to do a full recap again this week because this is kind of more of a storytelling week. Yeah. But I really did I try to do as much as I can, like learning and how to do things. The business plan was spot on. Everything that I predicted came true.
It did.
The one thing that didn't happen was because we couldn't get employees. The employees was the biggest problem.
The biggest problem.
Like you put in your business plan this hypothetical employee that will fill this chair and make this much money on a bad day or whatever, right? We couldn't even get.
There was theft.
Yeah.
It was just.
There was theft. There was people who had drug abuse problems. Yeah. There were people who violated state law.
Yeah.
There were people who were just, said one thing.
Just broke my heart because I am so passionate about this industry.
Yeah.
And stylists like that just put a bad name in this industry. Like everyone just thinks, oh, it's just a haircut. It really isn't. It's an art.
No, I like this line when I tried to explain to people who aren't in the industry. Mm-hmm. Anybody can walk into an art store and pick up a canvas, a brush, and some paint.
Yeah.
But not everybody can make a beautiful painting.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing with hair. Like anybody can go buy the chemicals
Yep.
and slap it on some hair.
Yep.
It's all years of experience
Yeah.
and technique and trying
Yeah.
and matching to people's face and
Yeah.
preference and all that.
Yeah.
It's a skill.
It's a skill.
It's an artistic skill.
It's an artistic skill. It's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of trust. It's a lot of, it's an industry that I just absolutely love. And it's fulfilling.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's very fulfilling for me. And it's very, it's amazing for the clients that leave happy.
Yeah. So I think your chapter's not over there.
No.
And we'll just have to figure out what's next. So anyways, we hope you found some useful business tidbits here. We do know a lot about the salon industry. We're trying to share our journey in that space. If you liked this episode, if you had some enjoyment out of it or just found some useful information, be sure to
like, share, and subscribe.
Please.
Thank you.